And welcome to episode 127 of Habs Unfiltered. I am your host, Blaine Pudvang. I am joined now by my co-hosts, Matt Smith
Cheers.
and Treg Wilson.
Deuces.
So tonight's episode is super special because all three of us are here together at the same time for the first time in a few episodes. So,
It's been a while. It's been a while.
wow. Yeah. Someone's not pretending they're, I'm working so hard Air Force type.
Do you know what? When I first got the Zoom call, I thought it was an hour prior. So I actually set up. I was still in uniform. So sorry, YouTube. You almost saw me in uniform, but it didn't happen this time. Maybe next time.
I don't know, man. That would have been. I don't know if I had enough fluids for that.
We might have got an all-time attendance record. I don't know.
That would have been Kim Kardashian break the internet type shit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
maybe in the next show. Maybe the next show.
Well, I see you got some champagne with you anyway.
Yeah, always. So shout out to Sawdust City Brewing Company. This is a fantastic stout that I'm enjoying tonight, and happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm enjoying a nice Guinness. Staying in the.
I'm drinking water.
Wow. I've decided to partake in an occasional beer, and tonight, because it's St. Patrick's Day, so Aaron Gobra to every Irish person who doesn't celebrate, and happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone else who wants to pretend to be Irish while they get drunk tonight. And a special shout out to our friends at McLean's Pub, who have graciously stated they will host our next get-together with the Habalisten boys. And, we'll light it up with some Fireball.
Fantastic. Looking forward to that.
Oh,
All right, I'll drink that night.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're damn right you will.
we gotta show those boys from Toronto what's what.
That's right.
So it's we're recording right now. It's Wednesday night. It's just before the Canadians take on the Winnipeg Jets in their second game of their 2-game set. But what we're going to cover, we covered a little bit of the Winnipeg series last episode. We'll talk a little bit about it tonight, but we're also going to talk about Bergevin's press conference, our thoughts, a little bit of the deadline. We'll talk about some prospect talk, and we have a mailbag. Got a few questions in from some friends, and we're going to cover those as well. So I say we just jump right into it, and let's begin with the suspension of Laval Rocket forward Veilleux, who got a 2-game suspension for making a obscene gesture to the Marlies bench after scoring a goal. If anyone hasn't seen it, if you're watching us on YouTube, he did this. For anyone who doesn't have us on YouTube right now and is listening to us in their car or whatnot, he made a blowjob gesture to the Marlies bench, and he took a 2-game suspension for it. So, hey, that's in the rule book. Don't do it, and you're not going to get suspended. But he did, so he did.
Sure, he wasn't asking for a water bottle.
Well, it's been rumored he was asking for water, but I mean, in COVID times, maybe it's best not take the water from, out of towners.
You know what? Like for me, I think it's just a bunch of horse shit. You know what I mean? Like it's that's a finable thing. You look what Scott Sabrin did the other night, taking out Primo, and then like just jumping Vedemo, and he only getting a 1-game suspension. Like you take the two of it, a guy going like this as opposed to someone running a goalie and jumping another player. I think that's a little bit bush league, but it is what it is. So
well, I mean, think about the pain and suffering that the Marlies were subjected to.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Having to face an obscene gesture that they have given themselves at many times.
Absolutely, yeah. That's all good. Like that's all I'm going to say about that.
I'm sure most of them had some uncle that did it, in front of them. So
yeah, more than likely.
All right, so we'll that ends that. We'll move on now to Marc Bergevin's press conference. So Yesterday, he had his mid-season press conference, and he basically sat in front of the press for an hour. They asked him a bunch of questions, and he tiptoed around everything, as is what he does. Some of the media kind of said, well, this just proves that he is not going to make any deals. He doesn't want to make a trade, whatever. The truth of the matter is he went out of his way not to answer questions, but he did kind of drop a few hints that he's willing to make some moves. So Treg, what did you make of it?
I think Bergevin did exactly what he always does. He's holds his cards close to his chest. He brought up some good points. He said, I really don't have the cap space to go out and make a major move. And I'm paraphrasing things because that's not exactly what he said, but he believes Sherrod will be back closer to the 6 weeks than the 8 weeks, which means he'll be back before the end of the season.
And that right there is a big reason why he doesn't have the cap space, because if he comes back before the end of the season, that cap comes back on the cap, and he has to be able to pay that person and whoever he trades for.
Right. So he literally, there'd be a lot of shuffling to do for that last 4 or 5 games of the season, and with Sherrod coming back, which actually would be, I think, 6 or 7 games left in the season. But he didn't say he didn't want to trade. He actually did say he wants to improve the team. Like he does want to improve the team. He just really needs to work around the cap in order to do so. So to me, I take that as we're not getting any major player like Ekholm or someone or Stahl or someone like that. We're not getting a major player. Look to see him bring in a maybe another defenseman at a lower pay. Glendening, did I say that right?
Glendening from Detroit.
Glendening. He his name's been thrown around there. I think he'd be a great pickup for Montreal for depth down the center. He never said anybody's name at the press conference. I'm just throwing it out there. But I think we should look, if he's going to make a move, we're going to look at something similar to that, like something, as some fans would say, garbage players. But he's confident in the team. He's confident where the team is. He believes this team is a playoff team. He stressed this team as a playoff team. He never said this team was a contender. He never said this team was a Stanley Cup hopeful. He said we are a playoff team and anything can happen when we hit the playoffs, something he said forever. But, and the reason I say that is because there's a lot of Habs fans out there who are under the assumption, based on the first 10 games of the season, that this team is a contender, and it never was. It never was a contender. It was just a strong playoff team. That's it.
No.
So,
in that press conference, he did drop a couple of hints. Like you said, he said he's willing to improve the team, and he never mentioned I'm not willing to trade the future either. That's been a staple of his. Every time he does a press conference, they ask him a question, and he normally says, I'm not going to give up any futures, but he didn't even say that this time. So that in of itself tells me that he is willing to trade some of the prospects and some picks to make the right deal. And we all know what they need.
We know what they need, but I just don't think he's going to go out and get the high end of. I don't expect it. Don't expect an Ekholm is what I'm saying. Like that.
No, I do. Like,
I mean,
any moment now.
Like, I understand any top free agent or top person that goes on the trade deadline is automatically headed to Montreal. And if they don't get there, then GM didn't do his then Bergevin didn't do his job. I get that. But he did allude to the fact, though, he wasn't going to make a trade just to make a trade.
No.
So which is another thing that he says quite often. But I think he's really, which is ironic. I think he's really, people are complaining about too much, not enough cap now. And for 3 years, they're complaining about not spending to the cap. But anyway, he really got to play around with the cap. Now, if he can get rid of a Paul Byron or someone like that in a trade, perfect.
There's teams, Chicago has been mentioned as one of those teams that's willing to take on a contract if you pay them to do so. So if he wants to move Byron to make some space, He's got 14 picks this year, 10 next year. He could easily give up a second, to just drop that contract.
And this year's draft's not going to be a deep or good draft at all.
Well,
there's just there's so much uncertainty behind it because scouts haven't really been able to go out and take a look, right?
There's some good players, but
it's not like it's the we don't know. Like when it comes to the draft and everything, like usually we're pretty in tune into it, but with the league's not playing, it's not like we've been talking about it. It's not like we've been able to do any research on it. Like we've been able to talk to Grant a little bit. We've been able to talk to some other connections that we have within the hockey world, but you know who the big players are when it comes to who's going to be maybe in the top 5. Other than that, usually at this time of the year, we're talking, 15, 20 picks deep. This guy can go here, this guy can go here. And other than that, that's pretty much it. So it's going to be a real crapshoot. And, I kind of feel bad for the scouting staff of all the teams throughout the league and all the scouts that right now are really watching old coverage, trying to piece together who's going to go with some of these picks.
Look to see a lot of European NCAA guys go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
more
100%.
views.
Yeah.
That's a bit off topic. The only way I see Bergevin getting a top 4 left-handed defenseman is if he gets a deal like Toronto did for Muzzin.
Well, yeah, and that's been rumored as well. But back to the draft, I think that does play into this because teams that are out of the playoffs already, when they want to make a deal, they're going to probably want multiple draft picks. So because they want more chances to make it happen.
Yeah.
So in the Muzzin type deal for an Ekholm, I would not be surprised to see a couple of prospects and maybe a couple of seconds or, that kind of idea.
Second.
Yeah. A first and a second or a couple of prospects. So they have a known prospect quality plus a couple of picks that they can use to try and make a hit. It's time for Bergevin to lose a deal to get the right piece. You know what I mean? Like give up that first and a good prospect for a player that in about 4 or 5 years, everybody knows that player is going to be useless for the Canadians anymore. And that pick and that prospect are probably going to look really good on their new team. So Bergevin is going to be seen as losing the deal, but you got to lose a deal to make the right move. He's won tons of trades, but where's the team at right now?
The way I look at it, we brought this up last episode, is about where does he see this team right now? Does he see this team as a possible contending team if he makes a couple moves here or there? Or does he see this team contending in a year or two?
Exactly.
If he sees the team contending in a year or two, he's not going to make that move.
Well,
he's not going to lose that trade.
My counterpoint on that is if he does make that trade, he's not going to go for an older player. He'd probably go for a younger player that would fit in longer.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, if we look at it, he's going to want a guy with term, not a free agent, not a rental. He's going to want a guy with term. He's going to want a guy probably around 27 to 30. You know what I mean? And if he doesn't feel that they're a contender now, or they could win the cup now, I just don't see him. Bergevin is a very safe GM when it comes to making moves.
He's a small ball kind of guy.
Correct. He doesn't want to go out and make that big splash. He will in the off season, but he doesn't want to do it during the season, which I think is a bad thing about Bergevin. Like, personally, I think he's too conservative at times. Too conservative. We can go back to when Price got injured and they went and got Scrivens. There's all kinds of goaltenders he could have went out and got.
Yeah.
That'd be number one. That could have helped that team at least make the playoffs. And he goes out and trades Cassian for Scrivens.
Now, so kind of along that point where I'm talking about guys with, like you mentioned, guys with term. I mentioned an age thing. You gave an age range. I wrote an article for the Hockey Writers just the other day, and I mentioned, speaking of I mentioned Vince Dunn as a puck mover that's available. Vince Dunn is available. They've been shopping him. He's got a contract of about 1.87. He's only got this year, but he's an RFA and 25 years old. So he's got a Stanley Cup ring. He has had a couple of 30-plus point seasons. He's a known commodity on a second pairing, and he knows a few of the players on the Canadiens team already. So I think he would be a fit for what they're looking for. He's not a top pair guy, but they can get him at a decent price, and he would fit a need. So what do you guys think of something along that line? Is that more doable?
I think Dunn would be more doable than Ekholm for sure. I think Ekholm is going to be the top. He's going to be the top prize. I think in terms of defensemen, you're probably looking at, for a left-handed guy, you're probably looking at Ekholm being the top guy, and for your right side, you're probably looking at David Savard in Columbus. Someone that's going to eat up minutes, can play physical. It's not going to put up a lot of points, but it's going to block shot. And it's going to make you really hard to play against. Another guy that I'd be looking at, maybe for the Canadiens, but more or less someone that's probably going to move. Dallas hasn't really had a really good season. I look at a guy like Alesiak to maybe move. Big body, block shots, throw the body, put up points here and there. Obviously not the fleetest of foot, but I think we can see him moving as well. And other ones would be out in New Jersey. Maybe a guy like Sami Vatanen, who in the past has been able to put up points here and there. Not saying for the Canadiens, but could move. And the other one being Dmitry Kulikov, another guy that's a veteran guy. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Not at $9 million.
Not with that. Not at $9 million exactly. Those would be the guys that I'd be looking at. Any of those guys could, be on the Canadiens' radar. Who knows? They all bring a different skill set, of course. And I do like what Treg said about Glendening. And Glendening is a guy that would jump into like a penalty kill role and key face-off guy, matchup guy type thing. In terms of his face-off percentage, as we know he's really good at face-offs, this year he's 64.3%.
That's okay.
Which would be absolutely incredible in the Canadiens.
That is an outlier for him. He's normally a 55% type of guy, which is still really good.
This year, he's just whatever he's putting in his Wheaties, he's winning his face-offs. But another one, this is another guy that I kind of, I've been watching a little bit. I saw him play a little bit in the KHL, is Artem Zub out of Ottawa. Another guy that's be more of a 5'6" guy, but he's a depth guy. And for an Ottawa team, he's not out of place, and he's looking pretty decent as a defenseman.
With the Canadiens, they already have that. They have Kulak.
That's true.
And they have Mete, who can jump into a 6 role. Even Romanov. Romanov's been moved up a little bit, but
if they're looking for a top 4 guy, and it doesn't really matter about left or right side, I would go with Dunn or David Savard, depending on what they're looking for. The only thing is David Savard's making just over $4 million.
And he's a free agent.
And he's a free agent. And the other one I'd look at, just because he's not that expensive, he's just making over $2 million, is Alesiak. He might not be the fleetest of foot, but he's gonna eat up minutes.
I'm gonna say Alesiak. No, Montreal needs puck moving. Montreal needs a better Mete. They need a puck moving defenseman who can skate.
Dunn would be my first choice.
Dunn to me is the perfect choice and the perfect pick for Montreal to go out and pick up. And the reason I say that is because, like Blaine said, he's played with Edmondson and he's played with Allen. Not on the same line as Edmondson, but he played with Edmondson, playing with Allen. He's a left-handed shot. He can move the puck. He can skate. He can do everything Montreal needs on the left side, and I think he'd be a perfect complement for Shea Weber.
Yeah, 100%.
And he's quarterback their second wave power play as well.
Correct. Yeah.
So he could do that in Montreal quite easily.
Yeah, you could almost take Weber off the power play and put Dunn on it. And,
I know a lot of people have been talking about Ekholm, but it's kind of like he's got. The thing is, pricey. Like he's the price is going to be the price is going to be high.
And by price, you can get not the cap. It's the actual.
It's the actual acquisition for him. Yeah. Would I love to see him with Shea Weber or Jeff Petrie? Absolutely. I think he'd be just a phenomenal add to that team, and it would bring them to the next level in their defensive core. But do I see it as is doable, especially being so close to the cap, without having to say, well, we'll give you this as well, plus so you can eat these contracts. It's just I just don't think it's worth it in the long
Yeah,
run.
the logistics of an Ekholm trade are just he's going to have to make another trade with someone else just to take a player off his
That's
hands.
right. And then
that's where the
and then
Chicago
add to it to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's where moving Byron to Chicago for a second and then something else would have to happen. It would have to be done.
Yeah. At least with Vince Dunn is yes, he's an RFA, but you still can control an RFA. You can still sit there and say, I'm the first guy that he has to sign with.
Yeah.
At least with Vince Dunn, he fits under the cap. He's 1.8. They could get him now if they wanted to, and the cap's not going to hurt them. And even when Sherratt comes back, and then you can bring him over and say, all right, we're going to sign you to this, and then you have your young top 4 puck moving left-handed defenseman. He's not a first pairing. Blaine's absolutely right, but like we said, Weber needs to drop down to the second pairing anyway. There's your second pairing done in Weber. Then you got Petrie and Edmondson or Kulak or whoever you want to pick up next season. And, Bob's your uncle. You kind of help solidify that puck mover on the left side. Maybe not the guy you want, not that number 1 guy you want, but that guy.
And also you have to keep in mind any move made now also has to be, you have to play into the expansion draft that's going to happen in July.
Well, Dunn as an RFA won't matter anyway because he's an RFA. So
he would still be able to be
protected.
Still need to be protected. Yeah.
But if you have Dunn,
if he was a UFA, it would be a different story. Because then they could be like secret handshake and don't sign with this team, we'll bring you back.
But with that, if you have Dunn. With Romanov and Dunn, and you can you don't have to protect Edmondson and Sherratt. You can afford to lose one of those guys. So it's not.
You would lose. You would probably end up losing one of those guys for sure at that point.
If they don't take Allen.
Yeah. Well, it's Allen, Edmondson, Sherratt. Those are pretty much the main targets out of the Canadians next at that draft. Yeah. Now, maybe there's a deal that could be put in place where he can say, "Hey, I'm going to give you a draft pick if you just don't take this guy.
Take somebody else." Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Hey, you never know.
You never know.
Expect the unexpected, except when it's expected. Then it's expect the expected.
Really
yeah. But on the tone of Bergevin's press conference, I mean, I don't know what people did expect. He is not someone, like you said, he's someone that keeps it close to his chest, plays his cards close to his vest. There was a lot of contrasting of Bergevin's press conference style versus Toronto's GM Dubas's style. Dubas basically came out and said, "This is what I'm looking for. This is basically what I'm going to be going for." He didn't name names, but he may as well have. And fans all over the Twitter scape were, look at this. This is way better. But is it? Is it really? I mean, does a GM really need to tell everyone his plan for them to actually know what his plan is? Couldn't you just look at what he's done?
It was a great idea. Leafs fans thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, of course.
It adds to the lack of Maple Leafs coverage on Sportsnet and TSN. That's for sure.
If only we knew.
Well, they're not playing all week, so we had to say something and say, "Hey,
look at us."
This is probably what I'm going to."
And we don't know, and we don't know the soap opera that is Austin Matthews' wrist either. So,
yeah.
Apparently, he washed dishes with it the other day. That was on Sportsnet. Yeah. So.
Well, that's
maybe maybe that's what Veo was doing. He's like, how's Austin's wrist? There you go.
That must have been it.
There you go. He's just like, how's his wrist?
That has to be it.
Dubas, I mean, he's not the first GM to do that, and it's not like it's not like anyone doesn't know what the Leafs need. I'm shocked that they come out and said they needed anything because according to their fan base on Twitter, they're the greatest team ever assembled. So,
but I'm contrasting the approach. So you have one he's just laying it out there, and another who doesn't really want to say.
Bergevin's always been a guy that's as Trike said, he holds his cards to his chest, and he's like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. or I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to give up this, or I'm not going to give up this. Look at the moves that just have been made this year within the team. Like, we didn't think that the goaltending coach was going to get fired. It happened.
Neither did he.
Yeah, neither did he. Yeah. We didn't know. We didn't, you know, we had discussed a little bit about Julian. It happened. Right. The whole, when Shea Weber came to the team, do we see that coming? No, we sure as hell did not.
No, we didn't know Shea Weber was coming, but when he said, I'm not shopping PK, he didn't lie. He wasn't the one calling around, but he wasn't saying, I am not trading PK.
That's right.
He just said, I'm not shopping him.
And Blaine, you brought up a good point about Bergevin. It's, you really got to listen to what he actually says.
Yeah.
Or what he doesn't say. Now, all his other pressers after season or whatever, or deadline season, mid-season, he's always said, I am not giving up the future. I'm not sacrificing the future for a player that's going to help us just today.
Yeah.
In other words, what he's saying is, if I can get a player that's going to be with this team for the next 4 or 5 years, is really going to improve this team, I'll trade that prospect.
Yeah.
Right? This conference, he didn't say any of that.
Nope.
He just said, I want to improve the team. I want to make this team move forward. What he said was, I don't want to get a player that's not going to help this team move forward, is all he really said. So in other words, unless this player is going to help this team be better, I'm not just making a trade for anyone. But he never came out and said, nobody's off the table. He never said, no one's untouchable. Nothing like that. He just said, you know, and you really got to watch the way Bergevin's except when he's talking to Apron there, and he just kind of gets pissy as soon as he opens his mouth. And then
there's a little bit of animosity between those two for sure.
Yeah, because you can see one of the French guys came on. You can see him start smiling and going on, and the questions were similar to what Apron was saying, only in French. And you get an Apron comes on, he's just like, "Fuck off, Apron!" Like basically, I think is what he wanted to say, but he didn't. So yeah, you really got to watch with it. And going back to Dubas, I think that's a mistake. I think to show everyone exactly what you want, because now they're going to say, "Oh, you want Ekholm? Well, I want this. Oh, and you're saying all these guys are available?
That's the thing.
I'll take all this, and you can have Ekholm.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's too much. Well, you're the one who wants them, and you're the one that said that they were available.
I think it's good that Bergevin is the way that he is. Right?
In a way, yeah.
He does, you know, and the same thing with the organization. I don't mind that they're, you know, a little bit of a behind closed doors type organization. We don't need to know every in and out of the organization. I don't need to know every little detail.
I do. I need to know everything.
Well, you might, just because in preparation for the arm wrestling match and everything. You got to know his You have to know his weaknesses, right? So.
And what supplements they're taking. I need to know this. So.
Absolutely.
A lot of BioSteel.
I can match them.
It's all BioSteel.
I don't take BioSteel. I don't.
Well, you're drinking the pink right now.
No. That's just Mio. That's just water and Mio.
Mio and HGH.
I use All Max and Man.
It's a testosterone booster.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a pill form.
Yeah. Suppository.
Crush it up, put it.
Yeah.
Best way to go.
No, but I mean, I understand the point of view of wanting to keep things close to the vest, and I totally understand people's need to know more, and I agree in the trade portion of it, in the asset management portion, I have no problem with him being a little bit more cagey, but like we've just been talking about, you have to really pay attention to what he's saying and what he's omitting, because he likes to play these little games when he is talking to the press, like with the PK Subban thing. He never said he is off the table. He just said, I am not shopping him, which means he's open to moving him as long as you make the right deal. And
he's not calling you to move him. He's going to wait for you to call him.
Exactly. So that's his way of saying to everyone, hey, I'm open. Come give me a phone call. And when it comes to a player that's going to move the team forward, you're right. He said he basically said he needs a big name player. He's willing to pay for that big name player, but it has to be the right price. He's not going to overpay for the guy either. Whereas and I'm only mentioning Dubas because They had the press conference at the same day at the same time, and people are comparing them on Twitter for a couple of days now. And with Dubas's approach, he basically lays out all my prospects are available. I want this, and I'm going to make it happen. So how much higher does the price go? Like Matt, you mentioned it. If he calls a GM, like let's say he calls for Ekholm, and it's a Muzzin type deal, it's a first and a couple of prospects. Well, now those two prospects go from a B and a couple of Bs to a couple of A's.
If he opens his mouth and he says, "This are the guys that are available. These are the guys they're going to ask about." They're not going to start with your BC prospects. They're going to be like, "Well, you mentioned top prospects," so they're going to start talking about guys like
top prospects.
They're going to talk about. They're going to talk Robertson, Sandin, Amirov, etc. They're not going to start with the guys that are lower tier.
But if you look at the Leafs top, they don't really have.
They only have They only have a handful to begin with, right?
I mean, Robertson, as much as they've been touting him as this big name thing, he's a middle six guy once he gets to the NHL,
I agree.
which is good. It's good. He was a second round pick, so hell, that's a great pick. Amirov would probably be the top offensive pick because he's only got that one. It's not even draft plus one for him yet, and he's already doing very well over in Europe.
That's right.
And then you have Sandin and Lindgren. Yeah, Letton they already traded. So
but he wasn't much of a prospect. He was more.
Letton was a KHL guy. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought, judging by Twitter when they got him, he was going to be the next best defenseman in the league.
Yeah.
Because he led the KHL in defense scoring. But anyway, but then they have Sandin and Lindgren, and then that's about it. They don't really.
And I wouldn't even. I would classify out of those two. I would classify Sandin as a Class A prospect. Lindgren maybe a B. But
I thought Sandin
and Sandin are probably their two best prospects. Yeah. So right off the top, if I was Poyle, I'd mention both those names and a first and say I want that.
And they also talked about giving up a draft pick and everything like that, right? So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Dubas, I think, he's in a tight spot because I will admit he has worked the cap like magic. He has.
Somehow they have a team that fits.
Somehow he fits everyone under the cap. I don't think their team this year is as good as their team was last year, and their team last year wasn't far from not making the playoffs, but that's just me saying this. Like in a normal NHL, I don't think Toronto would have the record be as good as they are. But he is his pressure is to win. His pressure is to win in the playoffs and make a mark, because if he doesn't, he's spending all this money on all these top players for absolutely nothing.
I think he knows. Yet. I think he knows the pressure is starting to get on him.
Yeah.
Because you throw out so much money for all these players, they do so many good things during the regular season, and they can't do anything in the playoffs. And it's been like that year after year after year. It was like that before he was in there, and now it's like that the same thing. It doesn't, you can win. You could go 82-0 in the regular season.
It doesn't matter.
You fizzle out in your first round. That's what everyone's going to talk about.
Well, look at what happened to Tampa Bay. They walked away with the President's Trophy.
Absolutely.
As the top team, and then they lose in 4 straight to Columbus.
Exactly.
I mean,
but then the following year they win the cup. So,
but Toronto hasn't moved forward. Like, that's like I agree with you, Matt. They just haven't moved forward. Yeah. Like Dubas has done. Hey, I got all these star players.
Yeah.
I got everybody fitting under the cap.
Yeah.
I improved my defense a little, right? But they haven't moved forward. There was no movement forward. No. Regular season, hey, we got 100 points. What have you done with that? Absolutely not.
So their pressure is to win now. That's his pressure. That is Dubas's pressure is win now. Whereas Bergevin's pressure is get your ass in the playoffs right now. Now, I don't believe that he will have a job if he fails to act. So he is at this point now where the expectations for the team to make the playoffs. We all agree that that's where this team is at.
Yeah, I'd say
that's
so.
The expectation.
Yeah.
That's been actually verbalized by Molson, by Bergevin. If he fails to make the playoffs in this Canadian division And he didn't even move at the trade deadline to fill a veteran center, go for another defenseman to help push the team forward a little bit. They don't have to be start players, but just fill those gaps. If he doesn't do that and they miss the playoffs, I think that he is going to be out of a job.
I think he has to do it now. Doing a trade like that at the trade deadline is not getting you in the playoffs because you're only going to have the guy for 4 games.
That's right.
That's right.
He has
unless you're trading within the Canadian division.
Right. And who's going to trade within the Canadian division? When
it depends because the only team like right now, I'm not even gonna count out Ottawa because they've been a thorn in the side of every team in this fucking division this year. Yeah, well, exactly. So like earlier on in the season when Montreal was beating the hell out of Vancouver, I would be like, well, maybe we could look at Vancouver as a possible option, but the way it sits right now, like they're up 2-1 on Ottawa as we speak. They're slowly coming up. They're slowly coming up. So is Calgary. Edmonton's getting hotter. Winnipeg is doing the same thing, and like we're seeing ups and downs throughout the division where teams are they're bouncing around whatever these positions are going to be. So it wouldn't even be easy to make one within the Canadian division at this point.
The way I look at it is I kind of disagree with you, Blaine. I think Bergevin's, but we talked about this the last show. I think Bergevin's safe only because Molson's not going to pay 2 coaches and 2 GMs. He has 1 year left on his contract. Yeah. I don't see Molson wanting to do that. I think he needs to make a move. I'm pretty sure they're going to make the playoffs. Like I'm pretty confident they will. I think Edmonton's going to be the odd team out, but he needs to make another move, make some player moves. He's done the coaching moves. He's done all that kind of stuff. Now he has to improve on the ice. He thought he did that in the offseason. Now he knows he needs the defenseman. He needs the face-off winner. He needs to solidify the center.
So right now, would you say a 4th line center, guy like a 4th line, 3rd line, whatever center? So let's just say 4th line center, probably their priority right now, and a puck moving defenseman.
Yeah. Yes. And it doesn't have to be a top line.
No. Okay. But so you're saying, like we brought up Glendening and Vince Dunn.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. If he got those 2 pieces, you're looking at a team that do well.
Okay. So I think Glendening's making $1.8 million for the rest of the year, and he's UFA at the end of the year. Okay. Dunn's RFA at the end of the year,
and 1.87
at 1.87. Okay. So Dunn he's shown that he can play up and down the lineup. He's won a cup. I'm not going to ask what you would give up for him, but in terms of like we're talking a little bit about the comparison from Dubas is his approach to Bergevin's approach. Who would you say would you be prospect wise? Would you be willing to give up to make this team better right now, depending on the deal? And who would be like your non-starters?
I would give up any prospect to make the team better. They're in a position where they have all these draft picks, all these prospects. You have to start now using those prospects to bring a player in to improve the team.
Okay. So I'll just ask you straight up. I'll ask you straight up. If they ask for Caulfield and you get Ekholm back, would you do that trade?
No.
Depends what else is added to that.
Yeah, absolutely. But say that was the big piece.
Now, if they're saying Philip Forsberg and Ekholm, then Caulfield, sure. What else do you want with Caulfield? But I'm not giving up Caulfield just for Ekholm. Not just for a year and a half.
Because you have to think too, who's going to be on the wing next year? Because Tatar is probably not going to be back.
Armia's probably not back.
Armia's probably not going to be back. You need wingers. You need someone who can score.
That's right.
And Caulfield is going to probably be on a 3rd line starting next year. So, and keep in mind as well, he's cost effective on an entry level deal.
Oh, 100%.
So that's a big portion of what we have to look at.
In my estimation, I think Caulfield's probably the only prospect I wouldn't give up unless I'm getting Eichel or freaking
Give me a star
like
player
Rasmus
and
Dahlin or someone like that back. Then I'm like, all right, you guys can have Caulfield.
Yeah, exactly. because you got to be realistic with this. As good as
Yeah.
we think Caulfield is, those guys are probably more impactful anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than Caulfield, I would say Caulfield, other than a star player coming back, is a non-starter, and the rest are wide open.
Sure. I would hesitate on Norlander, but I wouldn't hesitate very long. Like if it was an Ekholm or a Dunn or someone like that.
That's the beauty with the left-handed defenseman. If they ask for a left-handed defenseman, if we lose a Norlander, you still have Harris, you still have Struble.
For me, like we continue to talk about and you know, fans and media, we all talk about the amount of draft picks the Canadians have. But with the way COVID's been and the fact that, you know, we haven't been able to see these guys play, do these draft picks really have as much weight as what they normally would?
I don't think it's changed all that much. It's just the most fans haven't seen some of the players. There's still going to be the draft is still important. Teams that are rebuilding are going to want more draft picks.
Absolutely,
to offset that lack of use.
But for, like, in my opinion, a second round pick seems to be like the standard. You want a player, second round pick. Canadians got 2 of them this year.
I don't think the first is out of the question this year.
I don't think it is either.
The right player.
Right? I don't think it is either. But say a second round pick. I don't think it has as much weight as it would in other years because we haven't seen these guys play.
I think Blaine hit the nail on the head. It's not so much that the draft pick won't have the weight. It's so much that the other team's going to want more draft picks
to take more chances.
It's going to be more of a dartboard type scenario.
Yeah.
Because they're like, and this is why I think NCAA players and European players are going to probably do better in the draft than Canadian players, just for the simple fact that they've been playing all season and scouted all season. Where most of the CHL players, you're going to have to go with these little mini tournaments type things that each league's kind of having. I don't think Ontario's had anything yet, have they?
They're about to start soon, though.
Yeah, they're going to.
The Western Hockey League just started.
They just started.
The Q's been going for a bit, at least in the Maritimes, not so much in Quebec. So it's not so much, they know the talent's there with the players. A player's not going to lose his skill or talent overnight, whether he stopped playing or not. So they know the players just from the year before where they're probably going to line up. The issue is I think the NCAA and the European guys may leapfrog a few players. So your later draft picks might actually better picks due to the fact that they got leapfrogged by guys who were just scouted better because they've actually played.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I just want to make an off-topic point. We just talked about the league starting up. I'll talk about a recent draft pick. Caden Gooley, goal and assist so far in 2 games. Unfortunate news, get a hand injury, being reevaluated, but it's not looking good. So hopefully he doesn't miss too much time, but with a shortened season,
I think his season's done.
His season might be coming to an end, which is very unfortunate. I was really looking forward to seeing him. I thought he looked fantastic with Laval.
I think he's in Laval next year, regardless.
I think so too. Yeah, and I'd be hard pressed to see him without either a letter or either an A or a C on his chest of the juniors.
Well, he's the captain of his team right now.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I could see him in World Junior time having a letter as well.
Yeah, A or C. Yeah.
So I think we'll end that topic there. Take a little break. And speaking of breaks, spring break. So COVID spring break is right around the corner, and you know what that means. Spring break in your pants. Manscaped is here to ensure that the party in your pants never stops. Even Veronica Corningstone wouldn't say no to this pants party. For everyone preparing for a pants party this spring break, we have an exclusive 20% discount. Use code unfiltered20 at manscaped.com. Manscaped is dedicated to helping you level up your full body grooming game. The Perfect Package 3.0 kit comes with the essential Lawnmower 3.0 waterproof cordless body trimmer and a ton of other liquid formulations to round out your grooming routine. This is the best trimmer on the market for those of you in need of a chest or ball shave. The 3rd generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents, thanks to the advanced skin-safe technology pioneered by Manscaped. You can also adjust settings to a length you like, and you can get on top of it with almost no effort at all. Don't ruin any vibes this spring break or upcoming summer with some peaking pubes coming out of your swimsuit. Be sure to use the Crop Cleanser Body Wash to keep your hair and skin feel healthy and fresh. Inside the perfect package, you'll find the Manscaped Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer, because we know how painful chafing can be when you're wearing your bathing suit all day. You'll also find the Crop Reviver Ball Toner, a spray-on testy toner that's designed to give your boys a little slice of heaven. For a limited time, subscribers get 2 free gifts: the Shed Travel Bag, a $39 value, and the patented high-performance reduced chafing Manscaped Boxers. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code unfiltered20 at manscaped.com. Do yourself a favor and always use the right tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code unfiltered20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code unfiltered20. Say aloha to your new beautiful balls with Manscaped. What a break. So
I'm liking all these ads.
Yeah, there's always a fresh new ad, just like the freshness you feel when you're done using your Manscaped products.
That's right.
So moving on from that spring break to the mailbag. We've got a couple of questions in from our mailbag from our friends and listeners. So we'll just jump right in. The first question comes from Stephen Pudicombe, friend of the show. We all know Steve.
Absolutely.
He unfollowed me on Twitter temporarily today, but brought me back on. So, I feel special.
He was out.
Twitter's been acting up. I noticed a bunch of people that I followed got dropped off my follow list, and I had to go put them back on. It was just a weird day.
I don't notice any of that.
I noticed when someone said, "You're not following me anymore." Like, oh shit.
Nobody cares if I follow them or not.
Hey, now you're an all-star. We got the video to prove it.
Something.
So Steven sends us the question. Curious with Caulfield's success south of the border, do you think that will translate well when he reaches the NHL?
100%.
Matt, I'm going to let you get
100%.
You start.
100%. Cool. He has scored goals at every level. He is broken records. He has lit up leagues everywhere he's went. He's dominating the league that he's in, and I can see him jumping right into the NHL. He's ready. He's ready. He's maybe not the team might not feel that he's ready to jump in the NHL, but I think Joel Bouchard gets him in Laval. He's gonna become his best friend. He is 100% ready for pro hockey.
I agree. I think he's going to. I don't think he's going to go to. I am currently writing an article stating that I don't think he should go to the NHL right away.
Yeah. Not this season.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think he's going to be everything we hoped for in a prospect. He's going to be that natural goal scorer. He's going to be that quarterback on the power play. A lot of people argue that, well, it's against NCAA goalies. Just look at where the shot's going. Not so much who the goalie is in the nets, because it's not going to matter who the goalie is on 95% of them, because they're in that small little spot between the crossbar and the shoulder, or the post and the shoulder, and the post and the pad. And he's just a natural. He knows how to get free ice for a small player. He knows how to move around. I have no worries about this kid going forward. I think he's going to be a future star for the Canadians.
His shot is unreal. It's just the accuracy.
Yeah,
it's just unreal.
It's the quick release.
And and to score, you need to shoot the puck.
Yeah.
And he shoots the puck a hell of a lot. Yeah. I don't have any concern whatsoever. No, and he's an absolute steal at 15th overall. Thank you,
Phil. I think he is NHL capable. He can step into a lineup now. I don't think he should either. I think he should play in the AHL first. Can he step into an NHL roster and help? Yeah, a little bit. I think he is NHL ready. I think that walking onto a roster now, where the intensity has already stepped up, we're almost at a playoff level intensity now. For him to jump from the NCAA to that, I think is asking too much. So I think to protect him and keep his confidence high, don't bring him in too quick. I mean, right now, Wisconsin, as we record, lost in the Big Ten final last night to Minnesota, meaning that now Wisconsin has to wait until this Sunday to find out if they're going to be picked to go to the NCAA tournament to make it to the Frozen Four. As the 5th ranked team in the nation, it is very likely that Wisconsin gets picked for that tournament. So I would not expect him to sign on Sunday because the team is probably still going to be playing probably for another week. And this is a team that could possibly win the NCAA tournament. So it could be longer. So expecting him in this to make it to the team this season, I think might be a bit much. And I think it'd be asking too much if he did. So
Caulfield was also named Big Ten scoring champion. Or he was the Big Ten scoring champion, player of the year, first team All-Star, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Hobie Baker finalist.
Hobie Baker finalist, et cetera. This guy is, this is a guy to be excited about for sure.
Now, Bob Hartley was on RDS this afternoon, and I agree with his take that it's going to take Caulfield a little bit of time to adjust to the speed of the NHL. Like, he is going to be able to find his way and find those empty spots and get his shot. Like, he's done it at every level. It's just going to take him a little time to adjust. And he made a comparison that once Caulfield does finally adjust to the NHL, he compares him as a cross between a DeBrincat and a Patrick Kane.
I'll go with that.
That's that's a hell of a hockey player.
I think he's going to be a game breaker, really. Like, he's showing, and we've seen him being targeted. He has been fucking nailed a couple times.
Yep.
And he gets back up and he keeps going.
I think the only way he gets the NHL this year is if he goes to the AHL and just lights it up in the 5-6 games that he plays in there. Like, if he goes in there and he's like a goal a game and he looks like he doesn't belong, then I can see Montreal saying, all right, let's bring this guy up and see what he does on the third line, right?
But if that scenario happens, by the time those games are done, the playoffs are pretty much starting in the NHL. He'd be a black ace at that point.
And I'm okay with him in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Why not? Like,
throw him in, see what happens.
Throw him in.
So I hope that answers your question, Stephen. And hopefully we're right, and he becomes a star player.
It's all on Matt. Matt's he's very energetic about this. He's very confident about this.
I am very confident about this.
If he ends up being a Sherbeck, I'm blaming Matt.
100%. Because if I like at this point, I dissed Wisconsin earlier this season, and I know Jenny was not very happy about it. So,
you got to make it up to her.
Jenny, I'm making it up to you. Caulfield is going to be a star.
Remember,
and your team did much better than I expected.
Also, tomorrow is her birthday, so Matt, sing it. Come on.
I will be saying happy birthday to Jenny.
Happy birthday, Wisconsin.
To you.
All right. So the next question comes from FFS Wheel, our friend overseas in England. His question is, do you feel the Habs will or should make a rapid trade to get a replacement for Sherratt, or do you think they'll make do with Ouellet? I think we covered this a little bit earlier, but
to quickly answer, I'll say they should. I highly don't think they will. I don't think they're rapid. No, they should. Yes. Don't think it's going to be the top left-handed puck-moving defenseman everyone wants them to get.
I think they're going to make a trade, but I don't think it's going to be fast.
Yeah, I think they're going to make a trade as well. I think he's shopping. I just don't think it's going to be within the next couple of days.
No.
We'll see.
I think it's going to be a forward, to be honest with you.
We'll see what the next couple of days bring. I didn't mind Ouellet's game the other night. He made a couple little gaffes here and there, but other than that, he was pretty solid. And he's a two-way guy, and he plays a physical game. He outplayed Mete in the playoffs, and honestly, like, to bring him off the taxi squad and to throw him in over Mete, for me, he looked better than Mete did. So
Yeah, he can fill in on a third pair. It'd be fine, but I
100%.
would prefer they make a deal so that the third pairing has a guy like Sherrod in there on the come playoff time. That would be a
I'm
much
going
better.
to disagree with Matt, and I'm going to say Mete didn't have enough time, get enough games in to get his game going, so we can't honestly rate how Mete plays based on the fact that Ouellette was playing in Laval and got games in, got gameplay in, where Mete spent most of his time just practicing.
Who the hell are you, his agent?
I'm just saying.
Holy hell.
I'm just saying. Mete played 7 games and done absolutely nothing. Like he has pretty much zeros across the board on everything. And yes, the puck goes to a stick and
sounds
dies.
like playoff Mete. Zeros across the board.
The puck goes to a stick and dies in the offensive zone, but his transition game is probably one of the best on the team. Ouellette doesn't have that. We're looking for a puck mover. So just by saying that, I think Mete should get a couple more games before they decide to throw.
Well, tonight's game against Winnipeg, there are no changes in the lineup, so it's Ouellette again and Mete sits.
And that, you know what, Mete I think is done. Mete's career in Montreal is over if they're
Speaking
putting
of done,
over Mete.
that'd be a great fit.
Done for Mete. You heard it here first.
Done for Mete.
I'm not drinking anymore, so I'm on the Mete train.
There you go. It sounds like you have been though.
I still don't think Mete's a good NHLer. I'm just saying.
He's gonna be a guy who plays for a good 10 years. I mean, not bad for a 4th round pick. Yeah. Okay. So our final question comes from a friend of the show who will remain nameless as they requested. They don't want people to know they listen. I get it.
And he doesn't follow me, so I'm going to throw that out there.
We know why. It's your hatred of Mete and your sudden turnaround. And your sudden turnaround. Okay, so our friend of the show asks, can the Canadiens be consistently good over the second half now that Ducharme's system has taken hold? Matt.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yes. I think so. I think they're improving game after game. I believe Bergevin's shopping for a forward and a defenseman. We've seen improvements to the youth in the Canadiens lineup. I think Suzuki may have taken a little bit of a step back, but I think he's just been tired out from the continuous time that he's been playing. But we've seen a rejuvenated Jonathan Drouin. Kotkaniemi looks like an absolute beast. The defensive pairings, even though they've been jumbled up a little bit, have looked good. Alex Burrows has done fantastic things with the power play. And Carey Price is back playing meaningful games, which they need to do. And every game Allen's played this year, he's given them a meaningful chance to win the game. So to answer the question, 100%. I believe that they're going in the right direction. There's still work to do, and that work is to do with getting that extra point if the game goes to overtime or a shootout. Get that extra point, and they've lost 7 or 8 games this year in overtime or a shootout, and those extra points are going to matter. And I think that's really what they should be working on. And some work on the penalty kill and face-offs would be fantastic. That's why a guy like Clendening, I think, would be key to bring into the lineup.
Treg?
Yeah, I do. They're 4-3-3 under Ducharme right now, and they're just now starting to get into systems. So they were winning games, or at least they've only really had one bad game. That was a game in Calgary, the second game, not the first game. Now that his system's taken hold, everything's improved. Their goals against have gone down. Their goals for has gone up. Their power play has gotten better. The only thing that hasn't gotten better is their PK. So that's why I was surprised Richardson didn't get fired at the presser, because usually every presser some coach gets fired. Anyway, that's just a joke. So yeah, I can see them getting better. I think their second half, if you look at it, I believe Montreal only has to play 500 for the rest of the season to pretty much maintain a playoff spot, whereas Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton have to play at a 600 pace to maintain. If Montreal plays at 500, they have to play at a 600 pace to keep pace and stay where they're at. So I think Montreal played better than 500, which to me, they'll make it. They're exactly where we said they would be at the first of the season, finish around third or fourth, and they're going to battle pretty much the whole way going in. Everything's improving. All they got to do now is just put consistent wins together and win in overtime. I prefer not to go to overtime, especially in this division. But when you're constantly losing that extra point, that's why they're in this position that they're in. Not so much because if you look at it, I think they have one of the least regulation time losses in the entire division.
Yeah.
So those overtime losses are looming big. But yeah, I think they'll maintain it, and I think they'll keep their playoff spot. And as the big man goes, who I think has smaller biceps than I do, anything can happen in the playoffs.
Okay. Well, I believe that the Canadians can find that consistency. They seem to have been finding it, barring the games in Calgary. They've been fairly consistent with their effort levels and how they approach the game. I think the biggest upgrade that has to happen that still hasn't happened yet is on the penalty kill. The power play has been looking pretty good. They've actually moved themselves up to about 13th overall in the NHL now, thanks to Burroughs' work with the power play units and letting younger guys like Suzuki and Kotkaniemi take over and flash their skill. But it's the penalty kill. Once the penalty kill gets to, I would say, at about an 80 to 85% rate, because you want the percentage of your penalty kill and your power play to add up to above 100% so that you have a net positive outcome from your special teams. Once you have that with a very, very strong 5-on-5 team that the Canadians have, then you're going to see consistent wins. For now, that we've been getting consistent efforts, but these improvements will give consistent wins, and that's what you're going to need. Will the Canadians find a way to make the playoffs? I think they will. I think there's going to be a couple of moves, but yeah, to make some noise in the playoffs, they really got to find that consistency in their special teams to go with the consistency at 5-on-5. So I hope that answers everyone's questions. That's all we had for the mailbag. We had a few emails to habsandfiltered@outlook.com that were, shall I say, colorful. So they won't make it to the air. But thanks for sending them in. I did not need the diagrams that were sent with that. I know how to do what you requested, but I don't think it's a good idea. So on that note, I want to thank everyone
Were they
for
angry
listening.
ones? I'm curious now.
A little angry, very descriptive.
It's probably my fault.
More Matt. They're just jealous of his good looks. Yeah. So be sure to check out our YouTube channel. We're going to have some exclusive content thrown out there soon. Treg, you're working on a side project for that. So
yeah, I just gotta.
Yeah. Yeah. So once it'll be out there soon. So keep an eye out for that. Please be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the little bell, and you won't miss any of the content. Keep in mind as well that once we hit a certain number of YouTube followers, we will be handing out a copy of Terry Ryan's book, Fights, Films, and Folklore. That'll be yours once we hit that number. So we're going to pick a random person out of our YouTube followers and send that out. Now, I really want to thank everyone for listening. We have several longtime listeners, some great followers, good friends, and it's a wonderful community that we've been a part of here with Habs Unfiltered. So I want to thank you for joining us, And remember, if you are talking about it, so are we.